Last night we lost a icon of black cinema and one of the legends of pro wrestling. Tom Tiny Lister passed away last night at the age of 62. Now, most people know Tom Tiny Lister from his iconic role playing Debo in Ice Cube's Friday movies. However, my first experience with Tom Tiny Lister was in the late 1980s in I think it was the 1989 film No Holds Barred. Now, that was the first time I saw Tom Tiny Lister in that movie that was Hulk Hogan's first major feature film. And that was my first experience seeing Tom Tiny Lister playing the role of Zeus. Now, your Tom Tiny Lister, as after he played the role of Zeus, went on to participate in a feud with Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth on Saturday night's main event. And in that tag team match, we saw the heel turn of Macho Man Randy Savage in one of the greatest moments in wrestling history. So that's where I had my first experience with Tom Tiny Lister, and seeing him on the screen was with wrestling and the WWF back then, before it became the WWE. And then later on, my other family member, they brought the Friday VHS to the house, and that's when that's my first experience seeing Tom Tiny Lister in his iconic role as Debo on Friday. Now, everybody usually from the 90s knows him as Debo, but your Tom Tiny Lister had a long storied career throughout Hollywood and played multiple roles. And he had played in many things. He's even played a Klingon in Star Trek, and he's played many roles in many numerous films. And again an iconic actor from black cinema, and he's a legend in pro wrestling. And we really lost a great one last night. And most people never knew this, but Tom Tiny Lister only had one eye when he was alive. Many people, they would look at him and think that, oh, he's got two eyes, but he's always only had one eye. So he's been a major force in Hollywood over the last, I say, 20, 30 years, and I'm sad to see Tom Tiny Lister pass away. And we really lost a great legend as related to Hollywood and related to black cinema. Tom Tiny Lister is somebody I'm, I know is resting in power, and I'm really sad to see him pass because he was truly a great man. He came from humble beginnings and he took his life and his career to the next level, and he'll always be remembered for being one of the all time great black actors. I mean, he showed us that it's not about the size of the role, it's the size of a person's presence. And his presence managed to be, he would elevate any movie he was in. So I'm really going to miss Tom Tiny Lister, but I had to go out here and pay my respects to Tom Lister because I watched many of his movies, and he was one of those great black actors. He may not have had an Oscar or anything, but he has had a legendary career in Hollywood, and he's again a legend as I see it. Rest in power, Tiny Lister. We greatly are going to miss you here on Earth, but heaven has gotten another one of its icons this year.